Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brothers Discuss. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome to 2025. We're kind of late, but here we are. And the Oscars are upon us once again. And we're going to make our predictions later in the episode. And, I've been seeing a bunch of movies recently, and I'm starting to tick off some of these Best Picture nominations because I had not seen a lot of them yet. But, yeah, it's been a very odd award season so far. The Golden Globes have already happened, and watching that show was kind of like, I just don't have the pull this year that I had last year, where it felt like there were a lot more great movies, and some of them were spread a little more throughout the year. But a lot of great movies came out towards the end of the year, in films like The Holdovers or Anatomy of a Fall or Past Lives. I didn't expect any of those to win Best Picture or some of the major awards, and I thought Oppenheimer would go a fair way, but there was a lot more of a sense of anticipation I had, at least, about the awards. Whereas this year, I think a lot of people know the story about a couple of these films, and yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward because this could be a Green Book year, or it could surprise everybody, and everybody voting will be in the know. How many of these have you seen?
I think I've seen 7 so far. Okay. I'm about to watch The Brutalist right after this. Okay. But besides that, I think I've only seen 7.
I can't wait to hear Conan joke about Nickel Boys. It's just, I don't know. There's something this year where I do like that the Oscars do recognize a lot of films that don't get that same kind of recognition. There are no nominations for Deadpool and Wolverine or, some of those really big films. But in saying that, we might as well jump into this now. There are no nominations for Challengers. There's no nominations for Furiosa. There's a lot of big films that were very good. They came out early in the year. I think if Challengers had come out in December, I think it'd be a bit of a different story. But yeah, we're missing out on some big films getting nominations, which is disappointing. We live in time. Nothing. So Chris, what have you seen recently?
Well, speaking of Best Picture nominations, I saw Complete Unknown, new James Mangold film. So yeah, this is a biopic on Bob Dylan. I don't really know much about Bob Dylan, to be honest, other than just a small handful of his songs. But I thought this was really solid. Timothée Chalamet, I think this is probably his best performance to date. So I'm curious. I don't think this will win too much, given what it was nominated for. I could possibly see Chalamet winning the Oscar, but we'll just have to see. I know there's still a few movies I haven't seen with that category, but yeah, no, it was really good, very solid. So definitely recommend checking it out.
Chalamet, I have absolutely nothing in Chalamet. I follow people who absolutely despise him.
Yeah. I was kind of in a similar boat as you, a few years ago. I think he's definitely grown on me, more he's been in, and I'm at the point now where it's he's a good actor. He's great in Dune. He's great in this. So yeah,
I've enjoyed his work, but I think my commitment to Chalamet only goes as far as Dune. To me, he's just got the opposite of Riz or whatever it is we're saying these days. But I'm excited to see this film. I'll get to it soon. But I think for me, just a couple of films I'll briefly talk about before we get to the Oscar nominations. On Letterboxd, I list it used to be top 20 favorite films. I've actually changed to the top 15 now, just because, why not? I think the actual reason is I was looking at lists of films in 2023, because I go by year of release. I don't go by main release, because then this film came out in 2022, but it also came out in 2024. Which one do you put it in? I just go by the year that it has next to the name. That's just how I tend to do it. It's my Letterboxd rules that no one should care about. I shouldn't care about, but I do. In 2023, I had so many films that I gave 4 stars or more that were not on the list. And I'm like, do I just do a list of all my favorites? But there are films that I might have given 3.5 stars that I'll absolutely watch again. But does that disqualify from the list? Blah, 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 blah. So I thought, I'm going to lower it to 15. I feel like it's a little more... It's a smaller list, but it's not 10. Anyway, this doesn't really matter. A point being, there are 2 films from last year that are on my 2024 list that I want to briefly talk about. One is an animated film called Flow, which I believe you have seen, and we'll briefly talk about when we talk about the Oscars. I think it's my favorite animated film of the year. That and The Wild Robot, I both really liked. I like them both a lot.
Yeah, so I still haven't seen Wild Robot. I'm gonna try to watch it before the Oscars, but this is definitely my favorite animated movie of the year, given that. So,
But Flow was really simple, in a similar way to Robot Dreams from last year. It's an animated film with a very easy to follow story that is moving, and it is literally silent. Like, no one speaks dialogue, and both of these films reminded me of that because in Flow, we're following mostly a cat, but it's like a group of animals that are on, I think, Earth after there's been some kind of giant evacuation or something like that. And we follow this cat as it's trying to survive as, there's a flood, like, save your friends and other animals. It's just a very sweet film. And I like that films like that can get made and get a little bit of recognition on a bigger stage because it's such a simple story. And yeah, I would really recommend everyone check out Flow because I thought it was great.
Yeah, same here.
I will also talk about Ghostlight, which was a film I heard about at Sundance, and I got to see a screening of it. And it's about a man who is a construction worker, and he joins a local theater group that are rehearsing near his construction site. And it's a really, really moving film. It moved me in a couple of ways. There's a subplot that you see unfold slowly that I won't go into, that is quite moving. But there's this other plot with the lead character discovering theater and the love of getting to collaborate with people when it's not his world at all. He's much older. And I should say that the lead actor is the guy that yells, he should turn himself in The Dark Knight, in that one scene where Harvey Dent reveals himself as Batman. Not a super well-known actor or anything, but I recognized him from his 2 seconds on screen in The Dark Knight. But a really fantastic performance. Same with his family there in the film. Just really strong film. Like, you get a bit of a love of theater watching this stuff, at least I do. So yeah, that was a really fantastic film. I thought that has gotten recognition nowhere. So check out Ghostlight if you can get your hands on that, because it's a really great film. All right, let's move on to I guess the main event of these movies before we get to the Oscars.
Yeah, let's do it.
A film that I believe we have both seen and we haven't spoken about on the podcast yet is Nosferatu.
Yes. Well, I guess I should say initially I liked the movie, but I wasn't like going crazy about it. But it is one of those movies. It's like the more it sat with me and the more I just thought about it, like, the more I ended up loving it more and more. And I still haven't seen it again. I really want to, but yeah, I thought this was amazing. Definitely the best horror movie of last year for sure.
And I thought Nosferatu was fantastic. The atmosphere is really, really strong in this film. And I know that Robert Eggers, with The Witch and The Northman and The Lighthouse, everyone kind of knows what his films kind of tend to look like a little bit. And there's been interviews with him recently where he can't imagine making a film with, like, cell phones and things like that. Like, I like that he's sticking to this older period of time, but there was something about Nosferatu, and I think I might have even liked more than his other films. And the performances and the atmosphere, like keeping the look of Count Orlok, like not in public view until more recently. It was such a great surprise when you see his face for like a split second early in the film. And yeah, this is another one I'm very excited to watch again because I was just hooked the entire time. This one, I thought it was great. I think something that I really like about Robert Eggers' films, and I didn't love The Lighthouse when I first watched it, and I think I'd appreciate it a lot more now because I think my taste in these types of films has grown a lot more since 2019. And I'm interested in going back and watching that, but what I really like about this one, and when I talk about the atmosphere, I mean, it's very creepy. There are these long, silent stretches of film, and then also scenes where the score is very bombastic and huge. But the creepiness and the mysteriousness, it's all very, very chilling. And then there's like this sensual, horny aspect to it, and there's nothing that should attract you to Nosferatu, the character. But there's something about that where I mean, Lily Rose Depp, I think, is excellent in the film, and she's one that I'm a bit disappointed that hasn't gotten more award season recognition, because she really swung for the fences, and I thought she did a fantastic job. And not to change the subject, but I've learned since then that people have found her performance to be funny. And I don't love coming onto the podcast and complaining about audiences in theaters, but like a film I wasn't really going to talk about. I saw Wolfman, and I didn't really think much of it. It was fine. I was a bit disappointed by it. But I had people down the seating row from me chatting throughout it, and I'm not sure if they were talking about the film. I'm not sure if they were just talking, but at one point I did the dreaded shh sound, and it stopped. And we were way past halfway through the film, and I thought, could I have just done that this whole time? And then they just start chatting again, like minutes later or whatever. And that's very annoying. So I have had some bad experiences with audiences recently. It just makes me go, why are you at the theater for that? Why have you paid to come to a viewing experience for the public? If you're just going to chat, like, watch this movie at home. And knowing that people have been reacting that way to Nosferatu because they're not used to seeing a film with performances like this, that's disappointing. And I'm really hoping that we start to break out of that a little bit. You and I are big fans of movie theaters, and we don't want movie theaters to die. But then there's stuff like this that makes you go, ugh. Like it just takes the enjoyment out of you. So I like to see that end immediately.
You know what's funny is, speaking of Wolfman, so I saw it with like a group of friends, but like we were the only ones in the theater.
Oh, really?
And I think that experience kind of elevated the movie for me a little bit.
Oh, fair enough.
But I'm kind of like the same way that I just didn't really care about the movie that much, but I probably would have hated it more if I had like one or two people that just kept chit-chatting throughout the whole thing. So, but yeah, I thought that was funny.
But I guess overall, Nosferatu, big thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, before we get to the Oscars, there is one more film I'd like to talk about, and albeit it is one that neither of us have seen, but has dominated the conversations online for a little while, and that is Better Man. So, this, for those that don't know, this is a film. It's a biopic on Robbie Williams, but the gimmick is that he's portrayed as a CGI monkey, and it bombed. And I swear, for the longest time when this film came out, all I was seeing were people complaining about how dare we let this movie bomb. And it's died down since then. But
I still can't figure out if it was like the CGI monkey like turned people away from this movie, or if like Robbie Williams just, I don't know. It's interesting. I really didn't give it much thought, just because it's like I didn't really have a strong desire to see this just in general. But yeah,
I've got a weird opinion just quickly on Better Man. Like, a couple of years ago, when I heard about this movie based on Robbie Williams' life, he's gonna be played by a monkey, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, you mean an actual monkey? Then I'm thinking like, like a small little monkey, like Ross's Pet and Friends, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, monkey makeup, like one of the old Planet of the Apes films? But they actually went more like one of the new Planet of the Apes films. But I can kind of see how it's like, here's a guy that's a public figure that I think a lot of people don't really like. So a way to make you feel bad for him is to be played by a monkey, because you will feel sympathy for a monkey being drug addicted, where you might not feel that for Robbie Williams, the man. And I can see what people kind of mean there. But it's not like Robbie Williams would be playing himself, and any interest I had in the film absolutely flew off a fucking bridge when I heard Robbie Williams talk about the film and how he said to an audience that he might as well have directed it himself. And it's like, all right, like, I don't really have any interest in a Robbie Williams film, just full stop. I can appreciate the, I guess, artistic attempt at making it interesting by having him played via CGI monkey, but I can't say I have a lot of interest here. So if people are mad that people haven't gone out of their way to see a film, I don't know. Maybe I'm I don't want to say too old for that, because it's not like it's just young people being upset by this, but it comes to a point where it's like, yeah, a lot of great films flop all the time. Like, why are we upset about the Robbie Williams movie flopping? Remember a few years ago, I guess it was 2018. I think the first Venom film and the Predator movie that Shane Black made came out on the same weekend or something like that. And there was an online discussion, like, and this was very different to Barbie and Oppenheimer. This was like, which one will you see? And I remember thinking like, well, neither in hindsight. In hindsight, yeah, neither. But I remember thinking like, well, I've got no interest in another Predator movie. I mean, there are so many of those. Like Venom, though he was in Spider-Man 3, is at least, I'm interested in what they're doing with that concept. I was wrong, but at the same time, they were both bad. So it's like, what was that argument all about? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Big films flop, small films flop. It's weird to get upset over that and fill Twitter feeds yelling about that. All right, Chris, it's time.
It's time for Oscars.
All right, so I guess we won't go over every award. I think we did that last year. And we definitely don't need to go over the documentary shorts, and we haven't seen any of the short films yet, I want to say. We'll go over some of the bigger awards for the Oscars this year. I'll start with Best Director, if that suits you, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, so for Best Director, Sean Baker for Nora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. I forgot to talk about The Brutalist, I'm just realizing. Oh well. James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, and Coralie Fargier for The Substance. Thoughts?
Honestly, kind of a little disappointed with this category this year. I think of those, I think Sean Baker is probably the best one for me, or that's probably got my pick for winning.
Well, there are two films here that I haven't seen, and I will be seeing A Complete Unknown. I'm not sure about Emilia Perez, but
Okay, I'll talk about it real quick. Just because I did watch it, because I saw it got 13 nominations. I had no idea what it was about, and I also had no idea that there was any controversy about it. So I went into the movie completely blind, and I thought it was fine at first.
okay.
But I couldn't help myself. I was like, what is the big deal? I mean, it's not a great musical. It's not like a great story. And I thought like the controversy, not to get like too into it, but it's just like I thought, because the movie's about like a cartel leader transitioning into a woman.
Sure.
And I thought like in and of itself, like that was the issue. And I'm sure it is for some people, but it actually like kind of goes deeper than that, because it's like a very stereotypical view of both Mexican wives and transgender wives. And so that like everything was just kind of like, setting me away from this movie. So it's just the more I thought about it, the more I really didn't care about it. And one of the biggest things is that this is technically a French film. It's a French director, and but it's set in Mexico. And I feel like from what I've heard, it's like Mexicans like kind of hate this movie the most. And so I'm kind of like this movie's baffling to me, so I don't know if I'd really recommend it, but I don't know.
So I had no idea Emilia Perez was considered a bad film until after the Golden Globes, and I saw the story about the Challengers director walking out and all that stuff, and then I go on Letterboxd and I start reading all the top reviews, and it's just absolute like this wasn't bombing, because these, I'm sure were done, normal time, but all these really low scores, and I'm like, oh my god, wait, what is this film? And then I learned a little more, so great. I'm glad it's so highly nominated. It's just whatever. But I think I'm going to go with Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. I think I would like to see it go to Sean Baker for Nora, but I think The Brutalist, in terms of direction, that's a fair winner. And I didn't speak about The Brutalist, but it's 3.5 hours long. There's an intermission, but it's very good. It's a well-made film. We're going to go down a little bit to Best Animated Feature. Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot.
I think, now, again, I still haven't seen Wild Robot, but I think regardless, I think Flow's going to win this. Just because it's also up for international feature. Now, I know Wild Robot has a couple other Oscars, which is neat that an animated movie has more than one Oscar nomination. But yeah, I think international feature's the bigger thing there for me. So I think Flow is probably going to win.
I think this is a pretty cool selection of films because we have the big Pixar Disney film. We've got very different films nominated around it, though. I think I'll be very disappointed if it's Inside Out 2 because I really don't think it deserves it above these other films.
I think this is really between Flow and Wild Robot.
Memoir of a Snail is an Australian film, and, you know, Wallace and Gromit, it's cool to see that they still make those and they get a lot of attention in this kind of market. Yeah, I mean, Wild Robot was fantastic, but I'm going to go with Flow.
Okay.
International feature, Emilia Perez, Flow, The Girl with the Needle, I'm Still Here, and The Seed of the Sacred Fig. So for me, I did just say I love Flow, and I would select Flow out of these films, but if you're actually doing the math here, there are two films here that have been nominated for Best Picture. That's Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here. I really want to see I'm Still Here because it looks very interesting. I think it's going to be Emilia Perez, though. I think this is going to be, spoilers, I think it's going to be one of those years where that wins a lot of stuff, and everyone's just going to be like, why? So I think we've got that year ahead of us.
I don't know. I'm not even saying that just because I think the movie's bad. I'm just saying that just because I'm just thinking of like what we've had these past couple of years, Oppenheimer and Everything Everywhere All at Once. They like swept through the Oscars. I have a feeling this year's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little bit more diverse.
I guess we'll just very quickly talk about some of these. For Best Cinematography, The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu.
It's a tough one. Why Emilia Perez is up there, I don't know. But it should be Dune Part 2, in my opinion. But I'd be fine if Nosferatu got it. But I think I'm going to go with Dune Part 2 on this one.
I think I would like to see it go to Nosferatu out of all of these. Though I liked Dune and The Brutalist in terms of cinematography a lot, I would go with Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
Best Visual Effects, Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked.
Dune Part 2. I mean, yeah. I'm just trying to think. I don't think it'll be Better Man. I don't think it'll be Apes.
It's funny, like, we actually have a Battle of the Apes here. I guess we'll see. I mean, there are more apes in one film, so does that make it better? And, you know, every character we saw was an ape, except for a girl. With that in mind, I think it's going to go to Dune, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to go to some of the acting awards now. Supporting Actor, Yura Borisov for Honora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice.
Now, I haven't seen The Brutalist, but my money's going to Guy Pearce just because of everything I've heard about his performance. That's just what I visualize winning.
It's funny to call Kieran Culkin a supporting actor in that because he's kind of an equal lead, but that's a discussion for another time. I think I'm of a few minds here. I think it's neat that the actor from Honora got nominated here because I liked his performance a lot. But it's like, Guy Pearce, I'm happy Guy Pearce is an Oscar nominee. That's great. I think of my favorite performances, I would go with Jeremy Strong. And it is easy to pick someone based on how good they did a performance of a real-life person. But every time I've seen him, I saw him in 4 movies in the span of a year at one point. I was like, oh shit, that was the same guy in all of those. I didn't even realize. I think I'm going to go with Jeremy Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting Actress, Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez.
Okay. I have Zoe Saldana for this one. And actually, kind of speaking of what you said about Kieran Culkin, she's kind of like your main character of the movie, and especially throughout the first act. So again, it's kind of weird that she's up for supporting actress, but yeah, no, and like she's good in the movie. She's like one of the bright spots. So like I'm okay with this one. But yeah, I think she's gonna win it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Zoe Saldana This is one where I'm a little surprised by some of the nominees here. I mean, I thought Isabella Rossellini was really great in Conclave, but that's another one where I go, she's not in a lot of that film. And that's not the point of the award, but it's funny to see someone nominated for that type of performance. I think Zoe Saldana is probably a pretty good lock there for supporting actress, in my opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah.
For Best Actor, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice.
I got Chalamet. I think he's going to win it.
Now, I don't know if you've heard about the... there's a bit of controversy surrounding Adrian Brody's nomination here, where there is AI usage to enhance his accent.
Oh.
Yeah, so I guess my thoughts on that, like having seen The Brutalist, his performance is fantastic in that film. And to me, his performance is above whatever changes were made to his accent. Like, that is not to say that I think those things should be done. I don't like hearing that we use AI to improve performances, especially when things like this, which are meant to be non-impacted by something that is out of our control as an actor or something. But there have been talks for a long time about would Andy Serkis ever get nominated for a CGI performance and things like that. And it creates an interesting argument because why would we immediately disqualify him for getting nominated for Best Picture because he's also covered in CGI, where artists can change a person's performance with that. Whereas with AI, there's no artistry there. You just click a button and it does it for you. I thought Adrian Brody was fantastic in The Brutalist, so I personally wouldn't be disappointed by him winning, but I do understand the argument to being disappointed by him winning. Sing Sing, I'm excited to see. I believe it's available online to watch now, so I will get to that soon. But I think I'm going to go with Sebastian Stan.
Okay.
I think this being the one nomination for the film, really, I think people are, or the two nominations, I should say. But I think it's going to be that time. I think Hollywood are going to put their foot down and give it to Sebastian Stan.
Okay. And honestly, I thought like the biggest competition here would be between Brody and Chalamet. I didn't know about all the AI stuff, so I think that kind of gives Chalamet the edge, especially since it's like, he's playing, musical star and he's actually singing. So it's just, I think he's got it.
Best Actress. Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gasson for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here.
I think this is probably the toughest award. Because do you put yourself in the shoes of the Academy and go Amelia Perez again, or because I think realistically, I think this should be between. I mean, she's still great in the movie, but I think this is really between Cynthia Erivo and Mikey Madison. And I think of those two, I might prefer Mikey Madison just a little bit. But I don't know who's going to win, though. That's the thing. So
this is interesting. I'll quickly say this because we had two winners, obviously, at the Golden Globes for the different genres. And I was really surprised that Demi Moore got a Best Actress win, and I don't think I've talked about The Substance on the podcast. As time has moved on, I've come to appreciate The Substance more. I didn't love it on my first viewing, and as time has moved on, I've come to see what I really appreciate about the film a lot more. I think the third act is so odd that I kind of just was like, I don't think I'm connected to this anymore. And whereas I think I appreciate aspects of the whole film a lot more with some distance, Demi Moore's performance is very good. But there is a part of the film where I don't think she's very good, and it becomes very hammy. And that character wasn't really demanding a performance like that, in my opinion. Demi Moore may feel completely different, but she certainly gave a speech at the Golden Globes that, to me, sounded like she was giving her big award speech. So maybe she doesn't think she's going to win the Oscar. But of what I have seen of this list here, I would give it to Mikey Madison. But I could see Fernanda Torres winning for I'm Still Here. I actually think I could see any of these people winning for various reasons.
That's what I mean. I could see any of them.
Mikey Madison might be the least likely to win, but I liked her performance so much. But I think I'm going to go with Fernanda Torres.
Okay.
Well, Best Picture. Honora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked.
It's tough.
To me, Conclave being nominated kind of reminds me of a few years ago when The Post was nominated for Best Picture, and it was up against The Shape of Water and Dunkirk and Call Me By Your Name and Get Out and Three Billboards and Phantom Thread, all of those films, Lady Bird, and The Post was in there. And it's like this standard-ass American drama film. It kind of just... Conclave feels like that. I think Conclave is very good, but I don't think it's anything groundbreaking. I think the story of people who have, in a sense, the same mindset, but they're all at odds with each other because they actually have a very different, mindsets within that world. I think it's very interesting, and I think that does draw some comparisons with the election and all that stuff, but I just don't think it's as interesting enough of a film to be the best film of the year. But that's just not how it gets voted here. So it could be that. I don't know.
I think I'm going to go with The Brutalist for Best Picture. Just based off of what I know about it. Who knows, that might change in a few hours. But just based off what I know about it and just like how the film's presented, and I don't know, it just kind of it reminds me of like, I just like to think like this is this year's Oppenheimer, basically. So I think I'm going with that.
To me, Honora is so strange and weird and has a huge tonal shift in the middle of it. Dune Part 2 is a big kind of sci-fi epic film. The Substance is super weird. Wicked is a big, colorful musical stage production. Emilia Perez is its own thing. I think there's a good bunch of different films in here, but to me, Conclave is like the quiet drama with a bunch of men. It feels like, yeah, we still nominate these. It could very well be the winner. But my two favorites here would be Honora and Dune. I don't think it's going to be Dune. It would be cool to see Honora go that far with this, but I don't think it will. So it might be Emilia Perez. I could see it happening.
Mm.
Well, check back here in March, and I'll see what I get to watch before then, and maybe I'll comment on this again. But yeah, those are the Oscars predictions, kind of. Maybe we should have seen more of these first. I don't know. Who cares? It's the Oscars. Chris, where can people find you online?
You can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd.
Excellent. You can find me on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and you can also find my work on the Amazing Spire Talk podcast on their YouTube channel. And if you're a patron of that show, myself and Dan are reviewing Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man weekly. So check that out and sign up. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next time. Bye.